This week we take a break from our tech talks to indulge in another game review. Watch Dogs Legions, both online and among my friends, is a very divisive title. Heralded as one of the first AAA titles in the new console generation, it's now out and just beginning to stabilize. And yes, it really does look the part. Its much vaunted ray tracing, solid frame rates, beautiful lighting, and generous amounts of highly detailed texture work all come together to present an unquestionably beautiful title. But beyond that, is there really enough in this game to move the series forward and excite all but the most fanatic Watch Dogs fans? Did story and mechanics join their graphics counterparts in making that great generational leap? Let's have a look.
We're with you in this fight, DedSec. Albion are gonna get the short end around here from now on.
The first thing that jumps out at you if you're playing on a PC with hardware-accelerated ray tracing or a next, I guess now it's current, generation console, is the graphics. And wow. Locked at a solid 30 FPS on consoles, Watch Dogs Legions genuinely serves as a dynamic and impressive showpiece for what's possible on commodity hardware today. And since ray tracing is the headline feature, let's look at its easiest to see utilization: reflections. Near your character, they look generally great and are a huge improvement over environmental cube maps and screen space reflections. I'll admit, as a graphics geek, I easily spent an hour and a half admiring reflections in puddles and store windows, figuring out which kinds of decals are mirrored and the distances NPCs are reflected. Further away, you'll see that there is a distance at which ray-traced reflections disappear and screen space reflections take over. Try flying across the river, that's the Thames, isn't it? And look for the cutoff distance where sky reflections disappear when their sources go off-screen. Of special note are the beautiful lighting models and generous number of fantastically detailed textures. The city of London has never looked more lively and intriguing to explore in any previous game I've seen. Animations are beautifully fluid, crowds are full and varied, meshes from the landscape to the cars you drive all convey a solid sense of realism. And all of this plays out at a rock-solid 30 FPS, and if pixel counters are to be believed, a relatively stable but dynamic 4K. I really can't wait to see what Rockstar will be able to accomplish with these same hardware capabilities. And the play mechanics? Well, if you've played any earlier Watch Dogs, or let's face it, any Assassin's Creed title, or Ghost Recon Wildlands, you've played this one. You spend most of your time running around London, unlocking zones by turning each area defiant. This, of course, unlocks the locations of the countless collectibles that you can gather for more upgrade points or incidental stories. Now, to be fair, reusing time-tested models isn't necessarily a bad thing. Most MMOs are built around level-appropriate quest hubs, and battle royales don't often stray much from their expected principles, so again, falling back on an established set of precepts is not necessarily a bad thing. And the good news is this iteration does at least offer one new conceit. You can recruit nearly any character in the game to your gang and switch freely between them once recruited. Depending on the traits and skills of the character you select, you can approach its missions in several different ways. Stealth, guns ablazing, hacking, or a healthy blend of all three are all equally viable when dealing with the game's puzzle components. Once you learn the game's grammar, as I usually refer to it, most missions play out in a very predictable manner. You work your way to the target location, sneak, shoot, or hack your way in, carry out some kind of action, typically holding a button on something, and then you leave. And perhaps taking a cue from the amazing Hitman series, the game now includes a costume component where, based on the character you recruit, you might find it easier to get past security undetected. And, again like Hitman, you'll be able to unlock new tools along the way to use on your missions. although admittedly not in nearly as fun of ways. Watch Dogs Legion comes off like a series of tightly designed play arenas, as opposed to IO Interactive's freeform sandbox. Watch Dogs' most iconic tool, the Spider, can be upgraded with double jumps or replaced with a new model that includes a turret. Weapons, skills, and their upgrades are yours at the cost of tech points, which are scattered around the map and also rewarded for completing missions. Watch Dogs Legion also takes great care to provide cash, and an undeniably huge amount of aesthetics, which can be bought for in-game cash, found, or rewarded, and may actually mean something to us later in 2021 when the multiplayer becomes available. By the way, the GTA-style car theft is fun too, especially when a chase drone decides to chase you down after observing your crime, forcing you to either evade it, disable it, or force it to turn on its owners. And finally, the story.
Oi, looking for DedSec, are we?
Too right. Chuffed at how you've been kicking Albion's ass all over the borough.
The story, such as it is, well, let's be honest, it's not very good. And as usual, we're going to avoid spoiling anything interesting, but it comes across as a very self-important, yet somehow simultaneously shallow story. In this future London, government insiders, along with tech companies, use their positions to stage a national tragedy for the purpose of labeling your group, DedSec, as terrorists, in order to falsely blame and marginalize them for it. As most of the media in future London merely parrots their statements without question, the population is misdirected, while England's government and the tech companies solidifies their power and stranglehold over people's daily lives. In the game, your job is to grow DedSec's numbers and uncover the conspiracy headed by the mysterious Zero Day, a floating holographic head and leader of the Cabal. Along the way, you'll unravel several threads leading through sub-bosses in a way that kind of reminds me of the progression system of Ghost Recon Wildlands and any Assassin's Creed game, but hopefully not Phoenix Rising. I haven't played it yet, so please don't spoil it for me if it's the same thing. So what can one say about the whole package? Sure, the graphics are an excellent showpiece for modern consoles and PCs with hardware-accelerated ray tracing, but the entire package is held back by its story's tired tropes and hackneyed self-important premise. The missions vary from pretty exciting to mindlessly tedious, with a large majority of them favoring the latter. I know in an open sandbox you can, to an extent, make your own fun, and in almost every Hitman game I've managed to do just that. This title feels more like trying to make your solo fun in a sandbox like Sea of Thieves. Yeah, the pieces are all there, but alone it's unsatisfying as a playground. Hopefully this is something that will become more fun when multiplayer ships. So this has been a review of Watch Dogs Legion. Have you played it? If you have, what were your opinions of the gameplay, the graphics, and the story? Please leave a comment below and let us know. Also, feel free to add any questions or suggestions. And if you enjoyed this video and would be interested in seeing more, please consider liking it, subscribing, and hitting the notification bell. It would be greatly appreciated and really helps out a lot. Thanks for watching.